Hello, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. It's just you and me hanging out today. If you're new around here, that doesn't happen very often. The first few episodes of our podcast, now that we're coming up on 1,000 episodes, the first few were just me, but then we started having guests on the show. And those guests, for the most part, all have something in common, and that's this. They've built a beautiful business using the strategies that we teach on this show. So today it's just you and me, but most episodes are interviews with and discussions with people who have built a fantastic business using the strategies from our training that we talk about on most episodes. Today's an exception, however. It's just you and me. I've got some challenging thoughts for you. If you weren't aware, we've been doing e-commerce coaching for about 22 years at this point, making us the longest running e-commerce coaching company in the world. We've got about 60 coaches. All of them have something in common. Besides having a teacher's heart and being great at teaching others e-commerce, they're also running very successful businesses of their own based on the strategies we teach here. So we've been doing this a long time. But the reason I point that out is because I've had the opportunity to observe a lot of people come into our community. There's patterns that emerge when you see a lot of people going through the same process and you see some people winning and some people struggling. What is it the people who win all have in common? And the title today of the episode is something along the lines of the way you do anything is the way you do everything. It's a popular phrase. I certainly didn't come up with it. I've heard it before in many places, but it's so true. I could diagnose your ability to run a successful business by simply asking you about your daily habits and routines. No mention of money, no mention of intelligence, no mention of a lot of different factors. Just tell me about your daily routines and your weekly routines. Fill me in a little bit. If you're the kind of person that kind of wakes up and figures out what they want to do and kind of randomly drifts around, well, you're not going to be able to build a business. You just aren't. If you're the kind of person that needs 4 hours a day just to kind of surf the internet and look at cat memes, you're not going to build a successful business. You just won't. If you're the kind of person that kind of jumps around from one interest or another to something different the next week, and you've never really perfected or gotten good at anything necessarily, you probably will struggle with business. This may or may not be anything that you already know. Business requires a certain set of character traits, a certain set of disciplines, and you can certainly acquire these. And the best way to acquire these, by the way, is to hang out with other people who have these things. That's the best way, or at least one of the absolute best ways I've ever discovered. The things you're going to need to succeed in business are things like discipline, being able to do things you really don't want to do when they need to be done, even though you just don't feel like it. That's one. Delayed gratification, the ability to take some money and not spend it on things you want, but invest it, put it at risk so that it can grow into more money later. That means you have to delay getting what you want today, right? Delayed gratification. The ability to see others as being worthy of serving. Every business out there is rewarded based on customer service. Are you making customers happy? Are you giving them what they want? If not, you're not going to be in business very long. Even though you may never meet these customers, you've got to take care of them. Otherwise, your business will collapse. When it comes to e-commerce, you're not necessarily meeting face-to-face with people, but you are meeting their unmet needs. It's not about what you want that leads the charge. It's about what they want that leads every aspect of your business. So these character traits, if they're invisible in the rest of your life, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to manifest them in your business when the time requires you to do so. So a lot of your business success journey comes from doing the little things the right way in the rest of your life. My good friend, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, who's written a tremendous book called The Holistic You, you can look it up. His last name is spelled Lapin. He's an occasional guest on the show. He's been a keynote speaker at our events. One of the things he writes about in this most recent book, The Holistic You, is the fact that it's very difficult, if impossible, it's pretty much impossible to succeed in just one of the important areas of life while neglecting the others. If you're neglecting the other important areas of life, that one area that you're focused on will soon begin to suffer and decay. And the opposite is also true. If you find yourself improving in 2, 3, 4 of the important areas of life, the other areas of life are going to kind of come along. Because again, the premise of my show today is, for most of us, most of the time, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. The discipline that you display in your habits, that's going to reflect. Do you have more discipline with your good habits or more discipline with your bad habits? We all have good and bad habits. Which ones are you more committed to? What is your default mental condition any given day? Do you tend to see things through a negative lens? I've got bad news for you. If you tend to see things through a negative lens constantly, it's going to be very hard to succeed in business. Because again, another factor of business is you've got to imagine a better future than what you have right now. Otherwise, why build? If you think the world's falling apart and nothing ever worked, it's never worked for you and never will, that's a very negative place to come from psychologically. By the way, there's a very easy fix to that one if you're not in the habit. And it's become very popular to talk about gratitude in our culture. I don't want to beat this topic up. It's become almost cliche to say, practice gratitude. But there is actually a psychological benefit to it that you're going to struggle to achieve if you don't have gratitude, and that is optimism about the future. If you lack optimism about the future, you need more gratitude to fix that problem. You don't need better circumstances or more people around you saying, you can do it, you're awesome. What you need is gratitude. That will trigger optimism. You'll see a better future as being possible because you'll know how great you have it now compared to what it could be. You just don't have to look around very far to find people who are so much worse off than you, who are achieving way more than you are. There's only a couple things you can do with people like that. You can ignore them and pretend they don't exist, but they do. So you're in denial to ignore them. Or you can say, what is it that they committed to? They had less education, less of a great home to grow up in. They weren't as intelligent, possibly. They had different physical challenges than you had, right? You know who these people are, these inspirational figures. Do you ignore them and bristle and try to avoid them? Or do you look at them and say, what is it they've got that I lack, that I could improve upon? And more importantly, I'm grateful that I don't have those challenges. What am I going to do with the benefit of my health, my youth, the great place that I live, the access to the internet that I have that others don't, the access to clean drinking water I have that others don't? There's so many things you can be thankful for that give you advantages over so many other people, again, who lack what you have and have achieved incredible things. When you keep that perspective, instead of maybe looking at people who don't deserve what they have and have more than you can stay there and be very negative about that and just be mad about the fact that others have more than you and focus on how little they deserve it. That's a very bitter, angry place to be. How about you go to the other end of the spectrum and look at people who started with less than you, who have fewer advantages than you, and they've achieved incredible things far beyond what anyone would have expected them to do, possibly. Those are great people to study. And that will help you find gratitude. And that gratitude is going to trigger inside of you a vital component of business success, which is an optimistic outlook about the possibilities of the future. So that's one. You need to work on delayed gratification. Practice not spending money. Just don't. The next few things that you feel like you really want to buy, don't. Turn off some of those monthly billings. Turn off some of those things that you don't use that often. Sell some extra things that you don't really need. Get in the habit of respecting money as a seed that could be turned into more later. That's the delayed gratification. If you don't have that, you're going to struggle in business. And again, we've coached nearly 10,000 people in business, in e-commerce, in our community. And these are some things that we see. And I've got a couple more that I'll hit with you here too. I'm not going to be comprehensive today. The theme is the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So if you spend money loosely in your personal budget and just kind of throw money to the wind and you're always struggling, that's not the kind of discipline that's going to be required to grow a business. The first time you make an extra few $100s, you're going to burn through it instead of seeing that as seed money that could be used to buy more inventory to continue your growth trajectory. Another one that we see quite often is people who just aren't committed to learning. It's unfortunate, and I could say confidently, I haven't met someone successful in e-commerce yet who didn't have a commitment to learning new things. Are you willing and open to learn new things? One business tip that I heard many years ago that's benefited me is study random things that you aren't typically necessarily all that interested in, just to get in the habit of having a love of learning, always learning new things. Expose yourself to things that are a little outside of your comfort zone. Read up on a book that's a little over your head. Pick a random topic and dive deep into it just to get used to learning, enjoying learning. My wife, Andrea, and I homeschooled our 5 kids, and we said all along, she even had it posted on her Facebook profile for years, educating a child is not filling a bucket with information. It's not filling a pail. It's lighting a fire. It's creating a desire inside the heart of another person to want to know more. That's what educating someone is. It's not giving them all the answers for the test. It's giving them a wide open landscape of possibilities to explore. And if you see education through the lens of knowing enough to pass a test, and you think that's what education is, you don't understand enough about being educated to succeed in business. Business means always being curious, always asking questions, always assuming you don't know everything. Around here, we practice just in time education versus just in case education. The model that most of us were exposed to, sitting in rows of chairs in a classroom with a teacher giving us a test, was just in case education, meaning I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of stuff and you're going to learn it and prove that you know it just in case you need this information someday. And I'm not knocking that model entirely, although it's sadly inefficient and very poor at preparing you for the skills you need to succeed in the real world, especially in your own business. What do I mean by that? To succeed in business, especially in e-commerce, you need to always be in learning mode. You need to enjoy learning new things. You need to be open to the challenges of stepping into new tools, new arenas. Getting to know new people, for example, is one. If you're not comfortable with that, you need to learn it. That is a skill. Knowing people, understanding them, asking them questions, making yourself vulnerable, being willing to ask silly questions, very necessary skill set. And that leads me to where I'm going to wrap up this episode. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just wanted to drop some challenging thoughts. You can explore more. There's a lot of great famous speakers who are more eloquent than I am on this topic. The way you do anything is the way you'll do everything. And let me talk about relationships. I've shared this story a few times on this show, and I think it illustrates about as well as I can the point that I want to make here. I was once asked by a radio talk show host who wanted to talk to someone who understood e-commerce, someone who had helped other people grow successful e-commerce businesses at scale. And the radio show host said, Jim, I want to ask you to simplify down as best you can. What is that line in the sand between the people who succeed in business and the people who don't? What is that line if you can identify it? And I knew instantly what the answer was. He didn't prepare me ahead of time. I just knew instantly because I've seen this over and over and over again so many times. At this point, probably thousands of times. Remember, I've been doing e-commerce coaching for 22 years. We've had tens of thousands of people consume our content. I have a book that sold 1 million copies in the e-commerce, how to build a great business niche. What's the pattern? This is the pattern. The people who want to stay in a dimly lit room with their computer and hit a few keys and make as much money as they can while the world just leaves them alone don't make it. Those people don't make it. They just don't. They may temporarily make a little bit of money and then they're struggling again and they kind of bounce from thing to thing to thing. They never really establish themselves as having a steady, stable income. Well, what's the opposite of that? The people that I see truly thrive year after year after year. Remember, I've got a perspective with a couple decades now. I know who's been around a while, I know who's lasted. I know who's succeeded over the long term, built beautiful businesses and sustained a great reputation while doing it. Those people, they're relationship focused. They love bringing new people into their life. They love having conversations. They love talking about what they do, using their real face and their real voice and their real name and putting it out there and talking about it, teaching others, having a reputation, having recognition among their peers. They attend events, they get into groups, they're helpful, they're positive. Even when things are bad, they have positive solutions to offer along with the new twist in the road. Those of us who sell on Amazon have opportunities to do this every day, for example. We've been in groups where there's people who are just characterized by constant negativity, almost have a shield up saying, don't even try to come near me. I'm just here because this is all I can do. And I'm grumpy about everything else in the world. That's not the kind of person that you say, hey, let's hang out, man. Let's get to know each other. Let's help each other build a business. People don't want to hang out with negativity. They just don't, unless they feel a special calling to negative people, which few of us do. Most of us are repelled by negativity. However, if someone's facing a challenge and they say, all right, I've thought of a few creative ways around the challenge I'm facing right now. Does anyone else have any more ideas? I've talked to a few different people. I'd love to brainstorm on this. I think I'm going to try either plan A or plan B, but does anyone have a plan C? Here's what I'm looking at right now. That person is creative. They're industrious. They put a positive spin on things. They have good news to share. People are drawn and attracted to that. Those are the people that make it in e-commerce. Those are the people that build beautiful businesses. Did you see the contrast between those two? I could draw a nice clean line between those two camps. Can't you just imagine those two different types of people? Negativity, want to be left alone, isolated, see a problem in every opportunity, see challenges for everything that comes their way that works for others, but it'll never work for me is kind of their motto. And then you have other people who like being around people, or at least they've forced themselves to learn to enjoy. If they're an introvert, they force themselves to have conversations, get into Zoom conversations with other people in the same niche, attend events. Our event is a great example. We've done this many years. It's the longest running Amazon seller conference in the space, if you're not aware. The website is theprovenconference.com. We're meeting again in May of 2025. We have hundreds of people there. I've done this several times. I'll typically open up with a few minutes before we break into all of our different sessions over the 3 days. We had 40 sessions last time. A lot of first-time speakers, real people with successful businesses sharing what they know. That's what we do. But I like to ask from stage on day one, typically I'll say, hey, how many of us here are introverts? And it's crazy. E-commerce attracts about 75, 80% of us would consider ourselves introverts. It makes sense. We want a business that we don't necessarily have to talk all day to other people. Okay, that's fair enough, but that doesn't mean you get to avoid people entirely. And if you do so, it's going to hurt your business. So one of the things that I've typically done, and don't have to be at a live event to do this, that's really going to help you out, is to reach out to others online after you've been in a Facebook group with them, or you've been in some kind of other forum where you see them hanging out, you see them discussing, and just say, hey, my name is Jim. I'm from Central Indiana. I've been doing e-commerce for X number of years. Just reaching out to say, how's business? Maybe we could connect, swap ideas, share what's working, what isn't working. I'd love to connect sometime. That doesn't hurt to do that, does it? Why not? And then very intentionally build mastermind groups. The more local they are, the more powerful they will be. If you didn't realize this is an incredible insight to human nature. You may think you're different, you're not. The connections we make locally are far more powerful than the ones that we make even over a Zoom session. Being in the same room at the same time is 100 times more powerful than, say, sending texts back and forth to try to communicate the same thing. Just think of a conversation. You're sitting there with a friend, having a conversation face to face. The same exact words said over text is 100 times less powerful than done in person, less meaningful, less impactful. It doesn't advance the relationship anywhere near as much. That's why live events are so powerful and vital for your success. It doesn't have to be some big group where there's hundreds of people. You don't have to be willing to jump on stage and stand in a spotlight, although if you continue to grow in business, it is taking you in that direction. It's a leadership journey. Leadership always means using your voice, using your face, getting out there, sharing with more people what it is that you know. Success always has those character traits. But your success certainly does start with you being more intentional about relationships. So, what's the title of today's show again? Did I veer off path here? No, I don't think I did. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. If you're the kind of person that stays home, stays quiet, head down, goes to the store, wears a hoodie and sunglasses, doesn't want to be talked to, you're going to struggle in business. If, however, you're the kind of person that has learned, maybe forced yourself out of your comfort zone to talk, introduce, meet others, ask them about their business. How's business? Let's have a conversation. You take opportunities to get around other people who own businesses. The thing you have to understand about entrepreneurs is it doesn't matter what the business is. We're all fighting about the same battle. We're trying to turn $1 into $2 while fighting off all the forces that are working against us constantly. We're fighting our own government and taxation and regulation. We're fighting the competitors who would love to take all the margin we've got. We're fighting people who are trying to out-advertise us. We're fighting people who've been doing it longer than us as competitors. And I'm not saying fight as in like a kind of violent thing. It's a struggle for survival. Business is a struggle. That's why I'm so proud of the fact that we found a business model where you can be in the same room as other people who are doing the exact same business, hundreds of us, thousands of us, tens of thousands of us doing the same thing, but the trend is so big and growing so fast that we can help each other out. We're not competitors. In fact, at our live events, most years, I've started off and announced, hey guys, just as a reminder, you're not among competitors today. You're among fellow business building warriors who are facing a very similar struggle to what you are. Many, many, many of us have overcome and figured out those struggles. And if you connect and have conversations, you're going to walk away from here with more opportunities and fewer struggles. The rising tide raises all ships. That's what our whole community is built on. The fact that as some of us figure out how to meet certain challenges, we share it open-handedly with others, because half of all transactions on the internet any given day are happening on Amazon. That's over 1 billion different listings that you can sell against. There is no reason I can't share the strategies and the tools and the techniques and the insights that are working for my business with others. That doesn't hurt the business. It grows it, because e-commerce is exploding. New customers are spending more money all the time online. Right now, e-commerce is 20% of all retail spending in the United States. Soon it will be 25, 30, 35, 40% of all retail spending in our lifetimes. Hundreds of billions of new spending. There's huge opportunity there. We need to stick together. We need to share insights. So build relationships. It doesn't work against you to build relationships. And I would even say in a highly competitive marketplace, you're in a small town and there's only room for one of us in this town type of businesses, even they will oftentimes, if they're doing business the right way, end up being good friends, cooperating, mutually benefiting from the businesses. You'd think they'd be competitors that couldn't stand each other, but no, what they end up being is friends who are facing similar battles, and they know that they both do better because the other guy is there. It brings more attention to their industry. It brings more free marketing to both of them. The synergy effect, 1 + 1 = 5, kicks in, and they realize, hey, my competitor is actually helping me grow. Happens all the time. Talk to business owners. Happens all the time. If you think the opposite is true, it's because you haven't hung around enough business owners yet. And it's especially true in e-commerce. So the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Your attitude matters, your health matters, your relationships matter. I would even say your faith matters. Not that you have to be of a certain religious belief system in order to succeed. I'm talking about the faith required to see the possibility that the future is going to be better than the current, present. That's faith. That's saying, I believe in things that I don't know for sure that are out there, and I'm going to pursue them, hoping that they're there. That's jumping off a ledge in the fog because someone said, hey, there's a ledge right below. Go ahead, jump. It's safe. You can't see it because there's fog, but you're jumping. That's faith. That requires faith. That requires trust that the future is going to be better than the present. Instead of curling up in a little ball and reserving resources and not putting any of it at risk, business requires you to risk. So faith is a big component of being able to run a successful business. The way you do anything It's the way you do everything. We've seen it over and over around here, so many different ways. I could give you 30 more examples, but I just want you to be challenged yourself. Just think of some of the habits that maybe line up with the type of person you want to be to have a successful business. Are you being that kind of person? Jim Rohn said, set out to make $1 million, not so you can have $1 million. That's a nice side benefit, of course. Set out to build $1 million business. Why? Because then you'll be forced to become the type of person who's capable of having $1 million. All the things that go into it, the things I've listed today. It's about you being the best version of yourself, really. It's about having the discipline to do the things you don't want to do when they need to be done. That's possibly one of the biggest tips I could give you, because it doesn't matter what business you're in. One of the biggest lies you'll ever hear in business is do something you love. That way it doesn't feel like work. I got bad news for you if that's your life philosophy. No matter what your business is, there's going to be parts of it you just don't like. I could even point to it in your office if you'd like. It's that pile that you just can't get to. That's the part of business that you just don't like, but it's got to be done and it's stacking up on you. Even if you do something you love, you still have that to deal with. And it's a reality of having a business. So the discipline that it takes to do things, even when you don't feel like doing it, by keeping in mind, I'm doing this so I can serve more customers. That's going to propel you. All right, that's enough of a rant on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I'd love some feedback. Let me know if you want more of this kind of episode. If this fuels you and helps you, if this challenges you, please share with me. You can private message me. Jump into our Facebook group if you're not in there as well. Leave feedback there if it's public friendly content. If you want to put me on blast and tell me how crazy I am for these ideas, hey, send it to me either way, private message or public. That's fine. Happy to engage. Leave it as a comment on our YouTube channel. That's fine. One thing I would ask, if you enjoy this content, if you enjoy this conversation today, would you please leave us a review on iTunes? That's where our reviews have the most impact, and we really appreciate seeing those pop in. 5-star reviews only, please. Like Mom said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So send us your negative content or your negative feedback if you'd like via private message, but leave us those 5-star reviews. That really helps us spread the word. We really do appreciate those. Thank you so much for that. Hey, I'm going to sign off right here. We'll have another great episode. So many great interviews lined up in the coming days and weeks with successful students from our community who are building beautiful businesses using the internet creatively. Can't wait to share some of those episodes with you very soon. We'll talk to you then.